All I was thinking about when the Steelers were struggling on offense in the first half on Sunday Night Football was how hilarious it would be if they missed the playoffs because their best wide receiver, maybe their best player on offense, maybe their best player on the entire team, tried to punch a fan in the face during a game. Like, what an insane storyline that would have been.
I am your party host, Joe Rivera, and along with me, as always, is one of the preeminent ball knowers at USA Today Sports, and that's Chris Bumbaca. Boom. Happy New Year. We made it. 2026. Show hasn't been canceled. Another year. Happy New Year, my friend.
I'm like Larry David, Joe. I don't do Happy New Year's after the 3rd or 4th, and you're catching me here on Monday, January 5th. So it looks like you missed your window there. So I won't be uttering those words for about 359 days. But what I will utter on this fine Monday morning are the two words that have sustained me this entire NFL season. Keep pounding your Carolina
Feisty cats.
Panthers in the
Feisty
playoffs.
cats. Feisty cats. Do we have a thing? Do we do a thing? I don't know.
No, I have a thing coming. I have a thing coming though. But,
okay.
but seriously, quick note: let's reform the NFL playoffs. No reason why the Panthers, as much as I love them, should be hosting a postseason game with a losing record. The Detroit Lions tried that proposal during last offseason. I would like to see that go through. And before we get started, Joe, a quick ode to Mike Tomlin.
Yeah.
Let's get started.
Keeping it. Speaking of peak, yeah, I can't speak today. Speaking of keep pounding, right? Pounding his chest after that game last night. It took a Tyler Loop missed field goal in order for them to win that game. But hey, man, take the wins where you can get them, right? It's hard to win in the NFL, I guess. So, boom, regular season's over. Raiders got the #1 pick. We'll see how that works out for them. The Falcons win over the Saints, pushes your feisty cats to the top of the NFC South. So there's that. Myles Garrett secures the sack record. Saw that coming against Joe Burrow. No question on whether or not Burrow laid down like Brett Favre did for Michael Strahan, but there's that. The Bears, #2 seed in the NFC. Lots of stuff going on, right? Lots of stuff. What was your biggest takeaway from the last week of the regular season?
The NFL is the type of entertainment that will last in the history books. When we're talking about this in 2,000 years, if humanity is still around, the future generations will learn about it the way that we learned about the Romans in the Colosseum. I'm talking ancient times, not Southern Cal, but that's for the historians, I guess, to decide. And all we can do is break down what happened yesterday and look forward to what should be a pretty fun wild card weekend. Besides to talk about these matchups.
Yeah, I just want to touch on the Sunday Night Football game real quick. What a game, man! Like, I have to be fair. Sometimes you hear about the AFC North, and it's like, oh God, just choke me out. Like, I don't need to hear about the AFC North anymore. But last night was exactly the type of game that gives the AFC North its reputation. Hard hitting, back and forth, drama till the very end. Two Hall of Fame coaches going at it. Like, just an incredible watch, ending with the missed kick. Chris Boswell mixes the extra points, so you're up for some shenanigans at the end. Just an excellent game. I mean, I would have liked to see the Ravens go to the playoffs because I don't need to hear any more about the Aaron Rodgers narrative. And, speaking, me as a Jets fan living the gimmick, should the Jets have moved on from Aaron Rodgers, all this stuff. But again, I think the Sunday Night Football game was excellent last night. Just, again, to your point, Boom, NFL is entertainment that's going to last forever, right? Like, this is why we watch until midnight on Sunday night in Week 18.
Of course, it was going to end with the rookie kicker brought in to replace a franchise legend who gets caught up in a sexual harassment case and has to leave and be suspended for the first 10 games of this year. And Justin Tucker and, Tyler Loop, the replacement that they, according to Mike Tirico, scoured the country looking for. And he comes out there and, shanks him wide right. I thought, speaking of Tirico real quick, I thought Tirico and Collinsworth on the NBC broadcast were excellent last night. I know we're getting into Boom nerd territory with some sports media coverage. I thought they nailed it. Like Collinsworth on the second Flowers touchdown in the fourth quarter, called it immediately. I thought it was great television.
Yeah, Tirico was on it, and I laughed when he said Tyler Loop is made of the right stuff. Well, Maybe it was the wide right stuff is what he meant to say. But anyway, boom, let's talk about wild card weekend here. And we got to start with the Rams and the Panthers here. I have to admit, I was a little bit concerned with the Rams. My Super Bowl pick before the season, a couple weeks, the offense doesn't look great. Devontae Adams hurt. Defensive lapses. They have that thriller Thursday night football game. They lose in overtime to the Seahawks. But Matthew Stafford has still looked like an MVP this year. Now they have a rematch with the Panthers, who handed them a loss in the regular season. How do you think this one's going to break down, brother?
Yeah, I'm going with the Rams. Just a more consistent team, even with some late season struggles. I think my freak Panthers will make me proud in the frisky department. They'll keep it close, but when you're talking about the talent gap, the coaching gap, the experience gap, all of those factors favor LA. I'm rolling with Matthew Stafford over Bryce Young, who just hasn't been good enough down the stretch. We talked about him a lot last week, so we don't really need to go there now. LA moves on for all those reasons.
Yeah, I think this is an easy one for me. I just think the Rams are too good in every department if they put it together. But I don't think a lot of people pick the Panthers in the regular season, but it actually matters a little bit more now. So give me the Rams. I'm with you there. Boom. Let's move on. I don't think there's a lot to say about the Rams and Panthers, right? Like we've covered it, but I find the Packers and Bears matchup to be a little bit more interesting. We might disagree there, but I think this one is fun for the narrative for me. Last time we saw Jordan Love in the playoffs, he's throwing 3 interceptions against the eventual Super Bowl champion Eagles. I just, for me, I love the narrative of Caleb Williams. Is this going to be his moment? Ben Johnson, all of that goes into it. NFC North rivals. How do you see this one shaking out?
Yeah, it's crazy how the Packers keep finding themselves in this position. 7 seed, having to go on the road. Yeah, it worked out for them 2 years ago in Dallas when they knocked off the Cowboys, nearly knocked off the Niners to make the NFC Championship game. But this time around, again, like last year in their loss to Philly, Jordan Love brings in a really banged up team, especially on that defensive side of the ball. Without a pass rush, I just don't really see, and Micah Parsons, I'm talking about, of course. I just don't really see the path for an upset. And I think I might have just said Philadelphia. Of course, I'm talking about the Chicago Bears here, people. But yeah, I don't see how Ben Johnson lets the Packers get away with them being so one dimensional on that side of the ball. So I think that they'll find a way to get it done at home. The Bears do. And that's just my initial take on it. I think more of the matchup is rooted in the rivalry, the historic part of it, rather than these two teams going X's and O's. Like, it was a really exciting Saturday night game that they played, but it was also some pretty brutal football for the first 3.5 quarters, too.
Boom, you might have just answered this question, Ray, but I'm curious your thoughts here. If you had to put a number on it, a scale of 1 to 10, how important is this game for the Bears moving forward?
I'm not going to go crazy high here. I'll go 6, maybe a 7. Like, the foundation has been laid. Like, they just have to make sure that they're not the Commanders of last year, right? That the last play schedule, the um, inclusion of a new culture and bringing in and elevating a second year quarterback to his potential, or at least getting him on the right track. Um, they have to just ride that wave, I think. And that's the more important thing than one result in January. But then again, the results in January, what we do this all for. So that's why I have a tough time putting it below a 6, but I also have a tough time putting it above that.
Yeah, it's never guaranteed in the NFL, right? I mean, you look at the Lions a couple years ago and everybody said, oh, they'll be Super Bowl champions in no time, right? They lose both coordinators and miss the playoffs entirely this year. You look at, to your point, the Commanders last year, make a Cinderella run to the NFC Championship game, and you say, you know what, with some good offseason moves, got Debo in there, all of a sudden, not so much, right? Injuries get in the way, lots of things happen. So I think, again, to your point, the foundation has been laid for the Bears. This is the moment where you have to stamp out the Packers, though, because if the Packers lose, there's going to be some questions there, even with the banged up team. How much longer does a leash does Matt LaFleur get? Does he have a rabbit in his hat to pull this one out? Again, the injuries we know. Defense hadn't been great. Micah Parsons injured out for the season. So I don't know. I think this is a really, really big game for the Bears, not just for the playoffs, but what it means for the NFC North moving forward.
I mean, yeah, we talked about it. I think I might have even said it in October. I was like, are the Packers going to be that team that can elevate into that 1-2 seed territory, or are they just going to back in as a 7 seed like they have in the last couple of years?
Right.
And yeah, we got our answer. So maybe a run changes things, but I just don't think it will. I think Chicago gets it done.
All right, but let's move over to the AFC Sunday 1 o'clock game. Bills and Jags. Jaguars were in the running for the number one seed in the AFC up until yesterday. They needed some things to break their way. It didn't, unfortunately, for Jacksonville. But this is another one of these very intriguing matchups to me. You know, I've said it before. I'll say it with my chest. I find the Bills to be a little bit fraudulent. I'm not sure I'm 100% believing in them. Jacksonville, again, under Liam Cohen, first season, taking the ball away all year. Trevor Lawrence has been white hot over the last month of the season. He looks really, really strong. Looks like he might be figuring some things out. What do you think? How does this one turn out?
Yeah, if Trevor played like this as he's done the last 5-6 weeks over the course of the season, the MVP debate wouldn't even be one. He'd have run away with it. The key for Jacksonville is going to be the turnovers, and I've been saying it all year when it comes to them. They got 22 picks and 31 total takeaways on the season. That's second in both categories behind the Bears. So no surprise that when you turn the other team over, you're going to be hosting home playoff games. That's just kind of how it goes. So yeah, I'm looking at that. Like, are they able to take advantage of a Josh Allen mistake? Are they able to knock the ball out from James Cook? Because that's who the Bills are going to have to rely on, right? Is what can they do in those heavy sets with when they trot a sixth offensive lineman out onto the field, control clock, and play bully ball. I really think that's kind of their only path through these playoffs here, and it starts against Jacksonville on Sunday.
Yeah, as we said before, Buffalo's got questions at receiver. It's they've been trying to find that number one guy for a while. I mean, I know they traded Diggs a couple seasons ago, but you're trying to rework that there. James Cook has been great this season, NFL rushing leader, finished with uh how many yards? 1,400, 1,600 yards, something like that, rushing. So good for James Cook. I like the Jags in this one, man. I really do. I don't know if that's like a sexy pick or not. Like if you've watched Jacksonville this year, the way that they turn the ball over is what you need in the NFL. It must be nice, being a Jets fan. I don't know what an interception looks like anymore, but you turn the ball over, that's going to win you a lot of games. You can run the ball. Again, Trevor Lawrence, they have a formula right now that's really, really working for them. So I like the Jaguars in this game. I really do.
I agree, Joe. I'll probably be picking the Jags as we get down into it. Have a tough time seeing the path for the Bills just because of the inconsistencies on offense, and I think Anthony Campanile is going to find a way to make sure that Josh Allen can't go Superman mode. But in the event that he does, I'm afraid of putting the F word term that you used earlier, fraud. So I'm not going there because I don't believe in that for playoff teams. But yeah, quick cleanup on James Cook, who is your rushing leader, 1,621 yards. Very impressive campaign for him. So congrats, James
Yeah.
Cook. A training camp holdout that was probably worth it for both sides.
Yep, absolutely. I was going to say, how often is it that you see that a running back holds out, gets his contract, and then ends up having this good of a season?
Mhm.
Any holdout, really. So good for James Cook. Good for the Bills. I still like the Jags in that game.
I'm also
Uh,
really interested to see how Brandon Cooks keeps inserting himself into that offense. I thought that he made some big plays against the Eagles, and it looked like him and Josh were building something despite not having a lot of time together. So, like, if he's able to do something now, we got a totally different equation to account for if I'm the Jags defense. So, just something to look at.
Something to keep an eye on. Something else to keep an eye on. This is a sexy game to me. Niners and Eagles. Niners are banged up. We know that. Niners were a recent sexy pick. Like recency bias says, you know what? The Niners, with the way Brock Purdy comes back and plays, are they a potential Super Bowl contender here? We'll see. Eagles have had questions all season long. Boom, with the offense and offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo hasn't really been part of the solution there. What do we think? What do the Niners need to do to beat the Eagles this weekend?
They need that thing in Halo where you could automatically heal somebody, right, and make sure that everybody's at full strength. To as they get into this matchup, it's tough to sit here on Monday morning and prognosticate about this one with the health statuses of all those guys you just mentioned up in the air, Trent Williams, Ricky Pearsall. They need those guys if they want to have a chance of upsetting Philly. The biggest concern for me, if I'm the Niners, is the way that your defense looked against the Seahawks. I think that the Seahawks played a fine game, but um, if and now this is a big if for the Eagles who haven't been able to get the ball, run the ball all season long. If they're able to start a little bit there, then I think the Niners are in some serious trouble. So I don't know how much I agree with you in terms of the sexiness of this matchup. I think it could be a really ugly game, either in terms of like a blowout or not a lot of offense for both sides if it's close. So I think there are multiple paths to an ugly game here in terms of a watchability standpoint. Now, I'm still going with the Eagles. I think that's the main thing because even though I was feeling good about the Niners for a while, the way that they played Saturday night against the Seahawks really, really, really turned me off.
Yeah, I could see that, Boom. I think for me, I'm very much about the storyline here, right? Like, and the storyline for the Eagles this season has been, oh well, Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley having meetings with AJ Brown or not having meetings with AJ Brown, according to AJ Brown, not having a meeting. Kevin Patullo and the questions around him and the offense, and it feels weird to say a year after winning a Super Bowl, there's questions about Nick Sirianni again. Like, and if he can put the staff together, right? Like, and if he can continue to guide this team, and Saquon Barkley doesn't have a great year after he had a massive rushing season. So I'm in it for the narratives, man. I love the storylines. Maybe that's unfair, but I just, if the Eagles lose this game somehow, which is probably unlikely, if the Eagles lose this game somehow, this offseason is going to be very interesting to watch. Like, does AJ Brown find a new home? Does what happens with Kevin Patullo? You figure that they find another offensive coordinator, and that'll be another offensive coordinator change for the Eagles after losing Kellen Moore last year, and we know a couple of years ago with their coordinator situation. So, very, very interesting to see that game on Sunday afternoon. And Sunday night, capping the weekend action at least, Chargers and Pats, Boom. Another one. Hey, I was looking at I was looking at the Patriots strength of schedule, and it's like 380 something. Do you buy into that, Boom, at all, with Patriots being this good because their record or their schedule was this horrendous?
Oh yeah, they're totally gonna have to beat the soft schedule accusations for however long this postseason run lasts, and if they lose to the Chargers, they're not gonna outrun that tag. But it's their first chance to do so. I like the Pats a lot on first look at this matchup. I just think that they're gonna be able to control lines of scrimmage, and everything kind of feeds from there. You have Justin Herbert banged up a little bit. Not that the Pats pass rush is overwhelming per se, but I think that they'll do enough to make him uncomfortable, and I'm just not sure the Chargers have the offensive firepower to keep up with this unit. I think that Drake May is going to be able to lead his team to a playoff victory, and I know that the postseason doesn't really matter for MVP results, but he'll show why he's in that conversation.
Yeah, and this is another one, Boom, where Drake May is facing the guy who he was getting a lot of comps to coming out of college, and Justin Herbert, which is interesting. Chargers banged up on the offensive line. I mean, that's where it starts, right? Every year we say the same thing: protect your quarterback, hit the other quarterback. Can you run the ball? Like, it's a very simple formula. Um, it's going to be, again, I hate to use the word interesting because there's a reason that it is interesting, but this is going to be another interesting matchup. I like the Patriots here. Defending home turf, Chargers on the road, coming east. Does Drake May have it in him to look down a pretty tough Chargers defense and Jim Harbaugh and the Spectre there? I like it a lot. And the running game is key there too. I mean, how many times did we hear this season, hey, Travion Henderson, we need to run the ball. And then they started running the ball a little bit more with Travion Henderson, and they look pretty good. So very, very, very interesting. Again, AFC matchup on Sunday night.
Yeah,
And
I'm rocking with the Pats there for sure.
all right, love it. All right, Boom. Last but not least, Texans at the Steelers. Steelers get to host the playoff game after winning the AFC North in Sunday Night Football. Like we mentioned, DK is back. Missed the last two games after getting into it with the fan of suspension. Aaron Rodgers, is he riding off into the sunset? Who knows? Is this his last go of it? Mike Tomlin, some questions about his job security there. And if this is the end, whether or not, who knows? Texans defense, though, man, is an absolute killer. Absolute killer D. How's this one shaking out, Boom?
All I was thinking about when the Steelers were struggling on offense in the first half on Sunday Night Football was how hilarious it would be if they missed the playoffs because their best wide receiver, maybe their best player on offense, maybe their best player on the entire team, tried to punch a fan in the face during a game. Like, what an insane storyline that would have been. But luckily for them, it didn't pan out that way. Now, in regards to the Texans matchup, I trust defensive coordinator Matt Burke, head coach D'Amico Ryans, to come up with a plan that lets their pass rush still eat, that really scary pass rush that we've talked about for a while now. That's really been the engine between 9 straight wins. That really lets them get after Rodgers, despite him going hot potato and getting rid of it pretty much immediately. I think they're going to find a way to figure that out. And I got the Texans big here. I think I was going to eventually go Texans big against whoever it was. I probably would have had a tougher time if it was the Ravens. But, yeah, if it's the Steelers, it's not really much of a debate for me. I think I trust that defense too much. And C.J. Stroud is playing better than people are talking about at the moment, even with a receiving core that is a little bit diminished. But he's got nice connections with a guy like Jaden Higgins and Xavier Hutchinson and these names that we don't necessarily talk about, but have really been producing for them.
Yeah, first and foremost, good for the Texans to get out of that Saturday 4:30 spot, right? Getting the Monday Night Football spot is to close out Wild Card Weekend. Congratulations, that's a win in and of itself, right? Point two here. The offense, the Steelers' offense versus the Ravens just didn't to your point, but didn't look good, right? And it's a lot of Rodgers just getting the ball out.
It got there.
Right. It got there at the end. Now, listen, at the end of the game, it took a defensive back slipping for Rodgers to hit the open man to put the Steelers ahead late before the Ravens looked like they had a shot to win the game, right? So, like, how much of it was the Steelers winning? How much of it was the Ravens losing, right? I said it last week with, again, some real hard-hitting analysis. There are games that are won in the NFL, and there are games that are lost in the NFL. Is that a game that the Ravens lost? Last night, or the Steelers won? I think it's more of a Ravens loss situation, especially when it comes down to a 44-yard kick and, John Harbaugh confusingly maybe not running another play to get a little bit closer, instead taking the knee.
Insane.
Just like that's on one hand, you say that's maximum trust in your kicker. On the other hand, it's like, hey, bro, get me 3 more yards, make it a little bit easier on your kicker. But I think that game was really telling about what's going to happen in the wild card round. Texans defense is just too good. The Steelers offense, even with DK this season, I know that DK doesn't have the mass numbers that he's had when he was with Seattle. The connection just feels like it hasn't been there with Rodgers, and maybe they were working out a little something more, but I just don't like the Steelers in this matchup. It just feels like the Texans match up really, really well against them. Even with the Steelers defense that did play pretty well down the stretch yesterday, I like the Texans. I feel like it's not going to be close.